Well, it says we're recording.
Right.
I think we're going to cover a lot of new material tonight, so I wanted to make sure and get it recorded if people are missing. I know Ron C is not going to make it tonight, and I don't know if Ann's back to the country or not.
No, she's not.
I think she's been following things. I've seen a lot of comments from her on
Yeah.
pictures.
So have I.
So, Tom Eagle, why don't you explain what your thought was when you suggested high contrast black and white photography?
Sure. Well, for me, I do a lot of my photography when I travel, and usually when I'm traveling, it's not necessarily a photography trip, just on vacation somewhere. And we go to a lot of big cities sometimes, and you're out a lot in the middle of the day, and be able to take pictures. A lot of times the light isn't that great, but when you make them black and white, you can actually get some really interesting things. And so I just thought that would be a good topic. And I stumbled across that one guy, I forget his name, Alan something. I just liked his approach, and that's kind of like what I try to do. Just look for things interesting in urban environments and use the light and the shadows to make the composition. I'm not very good at it, but that's kind of what I thought would be an interesting exercise.
I thought the video was very inspiring. I enjoyed that. I hope everybody had a chance to take a look at that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, which, by the way, I am going to try and record this. It is recording, but just so people know, we may be bouncing around between different subject matters over these meetings. We're going to have a ton of things to go do for quite a while as a result of some of these topics. So this topic today, we're going to probably revisit that several times over the next year, as well as later in this meeting, Gary's going to go into a whole new style of photography that I think you're going to be really interested in. So if you don't get it, into it deeply on a given meeting, don't worry about it. We're going to come back to it.
Well, the other thing about it, a lot of people don't they put their cameras away after the good light's gone, but I think with this you can keep shooting all day long and still make pictures, which is what I like to do.
Well, it's a really good idea because, I mean, if you're a working pro photographer, you don't have an option. You got to work all day long, so you got to figure out what to do.
So there's really two things tonight. We're going to talk about the high contrast black and white photography, and then we're going to introduce something else I hope people will be interested in. That's why when Mike asked if we can get into the artography, I think we're going to be loaded up tonight, Mike. So I'll find a way to do that in the next meeting, all right?
Well, we're going to keep bringing artography back into the mix anyway.
Okay.
Oh, no, I just wanted to put it out there is that it was a very cool technique, and I'm getting more familiar with editing photos, and I would like to revisit that maybe in the next month.
Okay, we could do that. Should we get started with the black and white? I can take over the.
You go right ahead. We got 13 people.
All right, Tom. This is not a punishment, but you suggested the topic. So how about you and I partner on the comments here as we go through? So.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna turn this.
Let's see. Can anyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, let's get started with this. And guess who we're going to start with? Tom.
Oh, cool.
Okay, people are sending in the raw files and the JPEGs, which is good, but the quality of these pictures are so good, we may not have to ask for the raw files anymore. Maybe only send them if you're looking to have your pictures redone. So, do we have somebody else coming in?
No.
No. Okay, I heard a ding there. Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just walking around town in Ann Arbor, and actually I had hadn't got my camera out yet, and a bunch of people walked by this building, and I missed them. And so I stood there for another 15, 20 minutes, and no one else walked by. So I finally just took the picture and went on to something else. But I was hoping to get some people walking by this old building to make it more interesting.
That would have been nice.
That's the concept. Find a good background and then wait for people. So
Well, yeah. This is at City Hall. Is the new City Hall? It's kind of a really industrial-looking building, and one side of it's all mirrored. And so I just did a reflection shot of the hands-on museum that's across the street from it.
That's nice.
these are really great shots, and a lot of photographers take advantage of this. They'll wait for a person to be half out here so that they're, you know, with a leg sticking out so it's reflected in the mirror. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with these.
I gotta learn to have the patience to stick around. I usually kind of move from one place to the next. I get bored and want to move on.
Yeah.
Well, you've got it all set up for these pictures. All you have to do is wait.
Yeah.
These are good backgrounds.
I have a question on this photo. How do you tell what that white is white? Like, is the white balance, the custom white balance or whatever, do you need to do that with black and white photos?
White balance is only an issue with color, but what you're talking about is the histogram, whether you're going to blow out the highlights. So if you have a histogram built into your camera, that can be a great help. If you don't, you know, depending on the camera you're going to use, you're going to have to be very careful. You know, Tom doesn't have a problem here. If we put this on the histogram, you're going to see that there's plenty of latitude on the high end. There are just some little spots here, but I think those are fine.
Linda, what do you shoot with?
What camera?
Yeah.
Right now I'm using mostly the Canon EOS R.
Oh, well, you'll have a histogram in there.
Yeah, there is, but I guess what I'm saying is some of the, and it could be I'm using my laptop, but how do you know it's truly white and not just a gray? Like, should a good black and white photo have, you mentioned that grayscale, that spectrum.
Well, for starters, you want to try and make sure, if possible, that your blacks aren't blown out or too dark, or that your whites aren't blown out. So there's where your histogram comes in. Ideally,
Okay.
you just barely touch both the right and left edges.
Okay.
But not all pictures have real whites or real darks. So you just
Okay.
have to kind of watch that histogram.
Okay.
We're in camera raw right now, Linda, and you can see up here on the histogram.
Yeah.
This is the black, the dark end, and
Mhm.
these are the highlights. And Tom's got it, so he's just touching each end there, which is absolutely perfect. You like to fade off just at the end there for the highlights so that you don't blow anything out. And I would guess that this is probably the hottest spot right there. And if you look at these numbers that appear right above the histogram, it'll tell you 256 is pure white. And so we're pretty close there. We got 252, which is getting real close.
In
Okay.
Lightroom, it does something similar. So it shows you percentages. So you get 100% is all white and 0% is black. So you can use the same idea if you're using Lightroom.
But you
could-
should always get in the habit of watching that histogram and figuring out what it's doing to your images and your exposures. A histogram is probably the most important thing digital cameras ever brought to the table.
You're at +9 with the white here. If we just go down to 0 and recheck this, we dropped down a little bit, down to 250. We probably didn't need to boost the whites much. There's plenty of contrast in this. This looks pretty good.
Okay. So I always check the blinkies. You know, I always,
Yes, you can do that. You can turn these on.
yeah.
And if something falls outside of the goalpost, as I call them, then these things are going to light up. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
okay.
This is over by
Nice.
the Art Museum. There's a big old sculpture in front of it. I just kind of like the different lines in between the sculpture and the building next to it.
Like the textures in the middle.
That's nice, Tom.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, a lot of people might be tempted to correct, the architectural perspective here, but I wouldn't even think about that. This looks really great. This is, looks very abstract and,
That looks like a wasp's nest there.
This is over by the business school, which if you ever get to Ann Arbor and you want to take pictures of something, this is one of the best. It's my favorite building in Ann Arbor. It's a big, bright orange, rusty orange building. And it's really kind of cool looking. This is inside as you go into one of the doors, they have this kind of pointy little sculpture there and a lot of good patterns and things.
Ross School of Business.
Yep.
Church
By
football
the
team,
Law
the colors.
Quad. It's by the Law Quad, kind of southeast of it.
one of my good friends was the architect for this project. It was funny. I called him because I wanted to find out about the big oak tree that they have there. They actually moved that during construction. And he says, you don't call me about the architecture, but you call me about the tree that we had to move. So
That was a big deal.
it was a very big deal.
Mm-hmm.
This is inside. I discovered there's an interior part of the B school, and it's outside still, but you walk inside and it's like kind of an atrium, and there's all kinds of cool stuff in there. And this is some part of it that I kind of like. There's kind of a light there, and some.
Nice shot.
That is a nice shot. That's a Tom Pernard kind of shot. You would catch it as well. That's excellent. I like that.
Ooh, that's it.
Exterior again. I liked all these great shadows coming off the little whatever those things are, some kind of metal things underneath each window, creating these cool shadows.
This is a wide angle lens, so you could have used a telephoto and gotten in there for some more detail. It just looks like they're just oodles of detail shots that you can.
I didn't have any telephoto with me. I have a Fuji X Pro 2 I use, I just have some short primes that I use with it. So I didn't have
Dude, that would be interesting to just crop those triangles out of that center part, with the dark sky
Yeah.
There's,
right in through there. Yeah,
there's all kinds of stuff.
just a
going
really
on.
nice pattern shot.
Yeah.
So Tom, was it a really blue sky or did you make it dark to accent?
Well, it's a blue sky, and I used the film simulations in the Fuji camera. They have a film simulation. You can add a red filter, and then when you bring it in the Lightroom, it applies all that to it, and I adjust a little bit from there after it's in Lightroom.
So was that the Acros with red?
Yeah, with red, I think it was.
Yeah, that really pops.
And this one's from a few years ago. This was actually a large format 4x5 film camera. I took a class at Washtenaw. I just threw this in there just to see if there's any kind of difference in the dynamic range of the film scan over the digital image. That's what this is.
You do notice the nice smooth grain of film.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I love the detail in the rust. And
Yeah.
wow. It's been 20 years since I did any large format
I
film.
like the tilting with that. I have a lot that I use the tilt to straighten out the perspective with the tilt and everything. That was really cool to learn all
Yeah. Okay, good job on all of those.
Mhm.
Let's see. Bob,
Wow.
Where's that? That's really cool.
Bob, that looks like my neighborhood.
Oh, it is. Okay. Well, I walk by there just about every day, and when
Oh, you live right by me then.
probably not too far. But I was using Bob Radcliffe's fisheye lens, and I just laid on the tile floor there
Yeah.
and just took a shot straight up. And it was a contrasty, a bright day. And I thought that this would turn out pretty good with a high contrast black and white photo.
It's really well done.
Where is it?
Very nice.
You'll have to send me that so I can send it to the builder. He'd probably love it.
Okay, I will.
Where is that, Bob? I'm sorry.
It's in Novi off of 9 Mile Road.
Is it just like a little
It's like an open air gazebo to the entrance of the sub.
okay.
It's a newer sub. And there's a walkway there I like to walk back and forth on. It has a stream and a lot of deer in the area.
Mhm.
It's a real pretty area, very nice.
What streets were that again? 9 Mile.
9 Mile, and it's west of Novi Road on the south side of 9 Mile.
Thank you.
No, north.
Right, north, I'm sorry. Right.
Is that new sub where what used to be that guy that had the gate and everything?
Yes.
Right, yep, they cleared the whole area out.
Yeah, because I used to live in, gosh, I can't remember the name of the sub now. It was the next sub. Next
Dunbarton.
Dunbarton Pines. I used to live in there.
Okay, yeah,
Is this one in Ann Arbor?
Yeah.
it is. It's that graffiti alley,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, nice.
and I thought this would
Wow.
look good in the high contrast black and white.
I like that.
I thought about
Ah.
all those colors that you tend to want that to be color, but it looks great in black and white.
Yeah.
I like what you did with it. That's good.
That's a phenomenal shot.
I don't know the photographer there, but there's a couple people behind them. You really can't see them too
Oh,
well
yeah.
because they blend in with the background.
Right. I
Mm.
see.
They do.
But she was a photographer taking a photo. And this is also a church in Ann Arbor. It had a dark green leaf church, and the sun hit the statue just right to brighten it up.
Nice.
That's really nice. Yeah.
Southfield.
This is a building on Northwestern, and I took this about 3 o'clock. And I converted it into a black and white. This one here, this was about a 10-second exposure. And the sun was reflecting right off the front of the building. And the two sides were a little bit darker. So I converted it to black and white.
Well done.
Really well done, Bob.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like all this, what's going on with the reflections. That's really great.
And the other photo of this is just a cropped version of the same picture to be more of an abstract type
they're
of
both good.
photo.
Good job on all those.
Yeah, thank you.
Boy, this is an honor. Doug's actually bringing in pictures now. This is good.
Hey, Doug, how's your eye feeling?
Yeah, it's getting better.
Good.
Tell us about this, Doug.
Oh, these are all, I was out in Yosemite, and, we went out there in January, something, we're hoping for snow and everything else, and it was just not good for photography. You didn't have any atmosphere, and, it was sunny, blue sky every day, and, which is all right, but no leaves on tree. It wasn't what we expected. So, and just went around. I mean, I was on a workshop thing, but it was kind of, a lot of it was, you were with a group and just shooting whatever you could find, or then some days is before the group started and everything, or is just out walking around doing things. So, and a lot of the stuff I converted to black and white. These were taken in color. But, you had nice shadows, and that's which one is it? Bridal Veil Falls. Just a detail shot,
Make those any bigger?
No, these are small JPEGs. They're like 1200 by 1200 kind of thing,
Is that ice, Doug, to the?
Yes, snow and ice. Yeah. Because it's winter. It was in January.
Right.
Yeah. So there was, that's just the,
Ice formations. Wow.
ice formations from the waterfalls. Yes. Because
Mhm.
there was no snow or ice anywhere else. So.
Cool.
That's really nice.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's late in the evening, the
Half dome.
Half Dome, and we're walking out there, and everybody's walking out to get to a certain spot because the moon was up and everything. You get the whole classic scene, but I was walking and I kind of saw these trees coming in on the right, real close to me, and I kind of threw them in there just to kind of frame it a little bit rather than just having the classic picture of the mountain face, you know?
Yeah, that's a good
Mhm.
composition.
So just kind of, you know.
Yeah, it gives you
something a little
sense of
different.
distance. I like that.
It's
And
really,
the clouds were nice, so
yeah, that's really an unusual.
that's what I went for. And then
Yeah,
in Photoshop, I darkened the sky and brought them out more, you know?
that's beautiful.
And that's just a face of the wall taken from the tunnel view area. I think it's tunnel view, yeah, and that's El Capitan, and it was shot in color, but I just went with the longest, you know, my 80-400 lens and just kind of picked out. This tree was right there on the side of the mountain, and I kind of wanted to, you know, make that the focal point and
I
The
like that.
lone pine.
just get the texture. And you know, and then the foreground is green and stuff, and I just had to bring out the shadows of it and stuff and increase the contrast to that.
I like the layers, different layers of gray shade in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one, Doug.
Yeah, this is one I just did this. And
Oh, wow.
Nice. Very
so
nice.
this was the moon. I was showing him, a friend was over here that was with me on the trip, and we were just looking at pictures. I threw this in because he was sitting here and he said, well, my moon's all blown out. And I said, well, all I did was in Lightroom, you know, brought the highlights down on that and everything else. I didn't do anything else to this. I just worked on the moon only, you know, and to try to bring out detail. And I could have brought out even more if I wanted to, but
Yeah.
I was just showing him real quick how I could do it because he didn't know you could do that, you know, in Lightroom and stuff. So
This is incredible.
That's a great one.
Oh, that's real nice.
that's Bridalveil Falls also, but like, you know, long exposures, because I like it when the water, I did this in Iceland a few years ago too, and I like it when the water is falling
What's your shutter speed there, Doug? Do you
like
know?
curtains. I don't, it's probably a multiple exposure actually, you know, blended together in the camera.
A little bit of turbulence like this, but not when it's totally smooth, you know?
Yeah, I just like the water because the water's coming down in sheets, so I just kind of
It looks like,
I see it falling and then shoot. And,
looks like there's an evil face in there too. I don't know.
yeah, but I do this all the time with waterfalls because I like the water stopped like that when it's a long high drop.
Right.
It's a great thing to do. You can find all kinds. You get pattern every time. It's different. So
So you did it kind of like an HDR, you think?
no,
Oh,
just one shot. And you know, I actually shot it probably in color, but sometimes I switch my camera back to monochrome so I can look, and I just darken the edges. I did most of it in
Okay.
a lot of it in Lightroom, just, you know, darkening and bringing the vignette in and the contrast and stuff, just to make it look dramatic, you know. And that's just the water and the river down below the falls there. We walked around off of a bridge, just, you know, off the sidewalk. And you know, this one here it had everything's kind of like a shot, but then the on the right, that little tail of water that's falling down on the right, I kind of selected that area and then just opened that up quite a bit to bring that in. Otherwise it was kind of in shadows, you know.
mm.
But I just brightened that up because it added to it. But you know, it's not. This is what I like to shoot. Not, you know, I like to shoot buildings too, but I like to shoot this kind of stuff. You know, nature
Mhm.
type thing.
Right.
So you can do that high contrast stuff with them too if you want. And
Yeah, anytime you have
in sections. I like the textures. You know.
Mhm.
You've got quite a collection from that trip, Doug. These are all great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I still just look at those things every day. I'm doing a couple more. You know, just kind of playing with them. Nothing else to do, so. You know.
Let's see, I should have probably put these in matching order here. Hold on a second. Where do they match up?
Whose are these?
Those are mine. Now I went for the real high contrast like that Alan Schaller. So a lot of these, I didn't go out and shoot. These are all things I had
Yeah.
done previously. And so this was an exercise for me in Lightroom
Yep.
to get the high contrast.
Looks like you did pretty good.
You did a good job. Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Some of them actually look better the black and white than color, you know, so. it's-
Yeah, they do. This was in Central Park, was just walking back. It was nighttime and decided it was time to leave. And I saw these three people. She was taking pictures of the two guy leaning up inside one of the tunnels, and I quickly took a shot.
Great street photography shot. Yes.
Really
Looks scary.
Yeah, that's
nice.
why.
Yeah, it
we
looks like
were-
somewhere I don't want to be. No.
Right. 9/11 Museum.
Oh, wow, that's cool. What a difference that is between the color and the black and white, so much more dramatic.
Yeah, I think it gives a totally different feel.
Yeah, good job.
Both are nice though.
See, like you go back and forth on this, Gary. See, to me, this is better in black. This is much better in black and white because
Definitely.
this is really good. You know, you only have white, black, and a few other shades. You don't have like the last one. There were so many shades of stuff. It was kind of
Right.
messy looking to me.
I worked on this one probably an hour and a half in
Yeah,
Lightroom.
but
Oh
Because
my
the
gosh.
first one obviously is my raw, nothing done to it at all,
yeah,
okay? This one,
is great.
I even had to go in and use the brush tool on almost all of that white to get it white, because it was still a little gray.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how else to do it, so I worked at least an hour and a half on this one.
Oh my
Whoa.
gosh.
Did
Yeah.
you dodge any of it to get it whiter, or
Did I what?
did you use the dodging, or did you just use the brush?
I just used the brush.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning Lightroom. So I'll use the brush and I'll push up the whites, push up the highlights, push up the exposure until I felt like I liked it. And
But see,
the
you got a
hardest
little.
part-
You have a little bit on his shirt where he stands out a little bit from it. So
Yes,
it
yeah.
separates. That's which is nice.
That's good.
Can
Which
you
is
burn
good,
it?
man.
You burn and dodge in Lightroom? I always do it in Photoshop.
yeah, see, I have to
You
learn.
can do it
Photoshop.
either place.
Can you do it in both? I
Yeah.
never tried it in Lightroom.
Some of us don't have Photoshop yet.
Go back to that last one. So when I first saw the first one, I wondered, what is he looking at in the original one? And when the second one makes it even more,
Mhm.
makes the question even bigger. What is he looking at?
We think he was
He's
looking at his phone. Yeah.
I
Heck with the artwork.
Like
He was
everybody
looking at
is.
the
You're
phone.
he's looking at his phone. You know.
Yeah.
I thought it emphasized that even more by making it black and white.
Right, that's nice.
And this is in Hallstatt, Austria. This is my husband sitting on the bench. I told him, go sit on the bench. I want to take a picture.
I love how the
And I like the leading lines in that
But
one.
look at that. Look at the starbursts of the lights. They really show
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah. Nice job of processing. Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you.
The upper right-hand
The
corner,
black sky is nice. And
the upper right-hand corner, that white spot maybe is a little bit distracting. But other than that,
What corner?
upper right-hand corner, it's kind of white.
Oh, where it's grayish.
yeah,
Okay.
you can
Oh,
fix that. You can fix that with a vignette.
Yeah, I'm surprised that didn't look like that on mine. So I'm not sure what happened there. Because that should be all black. This is in Italy, chestnut roasting.
Yeah,
So now if you look at the histogram on that, would those lights probably be blinkies?
they'd probably be burned out. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But
but
it,
that's okay in here. you know.
yeah, looking at that Alan Schaller, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his
Yeah.
name. It looked like it didn't matter. In fact, you know, a lot of his whites were almost blown out.
So that's
Right.
the high contrast. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was going for in all of these.
It'll matter if you print, because then all you get is paper, and you'll notice on the print that it's different.
Okay, but on here, it's okay.
Wait,
Well,
what
this
was that on print?
When you print, because it puts ink on the paper, so if you print and
Yeah.
it won't have any ink, and if you hold it a certain way, you can tell it doesn't look quite.
Depends on what kind of printer you have.
And this would be.
You
an
mean
image.
where it's blown out?
Yeah, it won't be any
Blank
ink.
spot?
Not, so that you'll see the paper texture instead of.
So this is a case of an image that's probably beyond the dynamic range capabilities of almost any camera.
Okay.
And sometimes you have to go to bracketed shots and HDR to get it all in if you wanted it.
So we'd have to have him be real still.
But you can't actually do that a lot of times either. So.
Yeah, and I'm
Sometimes you can't.
This is good.
No,
Oh,
like-
I don't think the blown out I mean, what is your guys' opinion? Because I feel like in club, if something's blown out, it will automatically do poorly, but
In
I think
this
it makes
picture,
the
I
pic-
think
I like it
okay.
sometimes.
I like it. I think it makes the picture.
Yeah, and street photography, I wouldn't worry about doing that. If this was high-end fine art, architectural photography or something like that, then somebody has a pick on it. But that,
And I wouldn't do in landscape, you know.
right, or landscape, right? You don't want to do it. But street photography, don't worry about it. No rules.
Well, they say your eye goes to the white, but in this one, my eye went right to the chestnuts when you
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, me
Same
too.
here. Yeah.
No,
Great shot.
a picture like this probably wouldn't, like that probably wouldn't do well in club. That's all. It's just because it's club,
Mhm.
you know? So be prepared.
This is the Broad in LA, Broad Museum.
Wow.
That's really, I like that.
Yeah.
Ann.
Much better in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually kind of looks good in color when it's edited. That raw picture is kind of, but you know, edited in Lightroom, it looked a lot better. But I actually like it better in black and white than the edited color, which I don't
Look at
have. to
that,
edit
the
color.
eyes on that painting. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are good.
Metallic of the sculpture is just great in black and white.
Great one.
Thank
That's
you.
a good one.
And this is in Hallstatt at night. There was a little cafe there. They're selling coffee and a few little things, snacks to eat. And I just tried to capture the mood of the people and then did it in this very high contrast black and white.
Wow, you did a nice job on that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
good.
Really good.
New York, the Empire Diner.
Not where the Seinfelds is it?
I think this was in the Home Alone 2 movie. Where the guy was outside and the big stilts, big Santa Claus stilt guy was on the corner.
These are good, Ann. I think you have a real good sense of development and for street photography. Just the right combination.
Thank you. It was fun to go back and pull out some pictures I thought might work for this. And then, you know, just play around with Lightroom and
Well, that's the other thing about this is you can go back and find pictures that maybe you would have discarded and you can make something out of them.
yes,
Well, you don't throw anything away.
right.
Okay, good stuff.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I think you missed someone, Gary. Who's,
Yeah, me.
oh.
Okay, I'll go through these real quick.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's that place by Flint. Right?
Yeah, I just was there.
Yeah, Linda, you went there recently.
Yeah.
You had some good photos too.
Yeah, Doug and I, when did we go there, Doug? Last Friday?
I don't know.
Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, it was last week, but
Yeah, the clouds were in and out and you had to almost time yourself, you know, because when the sun is real bright, then you have the chance of blowing out your highlights. This is with a 10-stop neutral density filter. So
Wow.
none of mine came out because I couldn't focus on anything with my eye. So. Oh,
I
well.
really like that foreground.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the first,
I
that's the
like
first
that.
thing we saw there. Yeah.
Where was this at?
Stepping Stone Falls, just on the north edge of Flint.
I love this one, Gary.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice job on that.
really nice, Gary. Yeah.
they had, when you got down there were carp down here. Some of the biggest carp I've ever seen. They had to be 3 to 4 feet long and they kept bumping right into the end of the
Oh,
lower falls. And people would come up to the observation thing and they throw in corn or
Corn and bread.
bread and stuff, and there'd be this swarming of carp. There had to be 10, 15 of them, huge carp, and they're just rolling around.
Gary wanted to catch them for dinner.
Yeah.
what angle lens did you use on this? What?
Let's say this is a 110. This is a medium format, so it's about an 85 millimeter, 35 millimeter equivalent.
Oh, okay. You seem to have more in your frame than I did.
What's nice in black and white is all the walls and stuff, they kind of go tones of gray, so it just,
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
it doesn't
It's a
look,
great.
it doesn't look man-made, you know, from when you get the
Mhm.
tight stuff.
Mhm.
Nice, and I like the cloud movement in this one too.
This is in Milwaukee, the Calatrava.
Yeah,
I
It
think you
looks familiar.
And I love this picture. I just love this picture.
We had a good day there.
yeah, Bob had a nice one of that.
In Chicago, just wandering around. Chicago, you have just the advantage, even in Detroit, where you walk around and just wait, look for these little lines of light that are just peeking in every once in a while, and it's fun to just chase the light around the city. This is in downtown Rochester at night. I think Bob, Doug, and I went out there one night. It was a warm November night, probably 70 degrees, and we had our tripods just walking around. It was
Back
really
alley.
Pretty safe.
Oh,
Yeah,
there.
back alleys, yeah.
back alleys of Rochester. Yeah, we were
The mean streets of Rochester.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. You never know what you're gonna find, though.
Then
Oh,
Bob and I
that's
went down to
nice.
Birmingham, and we were standing halfway in the street, almost getting run over. But I'm not sure what we were trying to do that night with.
Oh, that's when I was doing the,
Panos by stepping,
movie.
right?
yeah, I was taking still shots and then moving one step to the right.
Oh, right. Okay.
I made a movie out of it.
Okay. This is in Detroit again with
Oh, I like that.
one of the
Okay.
alleys.
Yeah, I like that one. Gary.
Patterns, nice.
Great.
I was just walking around downtown Detroit.
Love that.
This is the old city county building. If you look on Shortby, which has all the historical pictures, you're going to find a lot of pictures of this in the old Detroit. It's about over 100 years old. Beautiful building.
And it
So
didn't have those
when
statues.
I'm looking at this, I'm thinking it's nighttime, but you've actually taken this during the day.
Yeah, we had a pure blue sky, so all you have to do is just turn down the luminance on the blue channel, and that sky will go black.
Oh,
And then you get really can see the detail on these bronze
yeah.
sculptures.
And those are green, so those could be adjusted too.
Sure. That's okay. Done with me.
Nice. Very nice.
Joseph.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a kind of a teaching moment of what not to do.
Is that Matterhorn?
That's the Matterhorn, yes.
Yeah.
I took this 9 years ago. And I butchered this one. At first I thought, well, high contrast photography, you increase the contrast, you increase clarity, and then you have nothing left other than black and white. But in this thing here, it did not work. So then I thought, oh, because I got lots of artifacts in the cloud. And then I had to go in the other direction. I had to soften it, negative clarity, negative contrast to get the artifacts out, and then just get some contrast into the rock. It's not a masterpiece. It's more a kind of a playing around.
You have better pictures of the Matterhorn, I think, than that too, though.
I know. Mm-hmm. And here it's just to for demo. That's, by the way, Corona times, downtown Detroit. You see the people wearing a mask, hanging out in the park. By the way, very safe right now, in my opinion, because there is nobody there. But the point here on the photography, this is the Fuji film simulation Atmos R is the red filter. And Fuji is famous for their look, their style, with the darks, you know, and still all the other tonal range in it. Like this one has a lots of gray tone. The histogram would look great, like something that you would expect. So I did not do much on perspective correction, exposure correction a little bit, and then went straight into a Fuji film simulation using Capture One Pro. And so that's a kind of a high contrast, the Fuji high contrast type of a look. So that's what I wanted to show here. And I'm not sure whether I used monochrome R or also Acros R on that one. But it's the R filter, the red filter makes the dark the darkest. Yellow and green filters are not that contrasty. So that's why I picked this one.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, it's very daytime.
Ansel Adams used a lot of red filters.
Mm-hmm. And here is another Fujifilm simulation, A-class, not much done to it, almost out of camera. I could have shot it that way, but here, compared to the first one, you saw a lot of trees and branches. Here you see a lot of flat surfaces, and that gives it also that Fujifilm simulation look. So that's what I wanted to show here.
Good stuff. Okay, Keith. I think this is probably
Yeah.
this way.
Why don't you
Okay.
take these, Keith?
Yeah, Doug and I were down in Ann Arbor, and Tom had mentioned the Ross Building and the new Natural History Museum. So I was just trying to do some sections of buildings here and then converting them.
This is a natural history museum here, right?
Yeah,
We couldn't get inside either of the buildings though on Saturday.
yeah.
I like it. Wow. So what's inside the building for this dome?
That's a planetarium.
Is it? Okay.
We couldn't get in there though on Saturday, so they were all closed.
Yeah, I was in here last fall, and then they shut down. You know, last time
They shut it down because it's a museum. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool museum, though.
Now, I didn't have the patience to wait for a person to come down the stairs. So.
There weren't many people, so.
I like this.
Yeah.
So you cropped it square. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
This is the interior part of the business school I was telling you about.
On this one, though, the model there just isn't up to snuff.
It's moving too fast. It's like a blur.
Is it the good side or the bad side?
Hey, you
Is
take,
that Bob?
No, that's Doug.
Doug,
Oh, that's Doug. Okay.
I think that's his good side.
That's better.
That
Wow.
was raw. And this is my. Yeah.
That's cool.
wow.
Yeah, that's a nice building. There's so many details.
Oh yeah.
Did you take one of that walkway when we walked in with the shadows on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You don't have that
I
in here,
don't-
though, do you?
No.
I don't think I would think to do that though. Good angles.
You could spend hours photographing this building.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just doing the building detail and stuff, and doing it more abstract like this is kind of fun.
I can see a half a dozen pictures right in just one picture. It's just with all the combinations. This is wonderful.
Hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
I like
Good.
that too.
Very nice. Were you using mostly Zoom lenses, Keith, it looks like?
Yes.
Let's see if I got these in the right order. Okay.
What kind of focal length, do you remember? What?
It's a 24 to 90 zoom.
Oh, okay, so not super zoom.
So this wasn't really part of the assignment. This was one I submitted to Club last time, and it scored really poorly. And I kind of wanted to hear what this group thought, since we're doing black and white, because I actually thought it was a stronger black and white, but I wanted to hear some feedback.
Your foreground, right? That you see your foreground, all those crisscrosses?
On the lower part?
Yeah, I'd like to see those sharp, more depth of
Oh,
field.
okay. See it now. I like when it's.
Because that's
but
a
okay.
lot of text, a lot of sharp texture. You know, it's,
Yeah.
to
Okay.
me, that's just my opinion. you know?
No, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, and everybody's gonna have something different to
It's
say.
so prominent,
Right.
so prominent in the frame. It's taking up that whole lower part of it, right? So you want to,
Yeah.
your eye goes to it and it's just out of focus.
Yeah,
Your eye goes to the lower part?
to the out of focus
Right.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, and it's out of focus.
'Cause it's right in your face.
Huh.
You can even.
Your eye goes through it. Your eye goes through it, and then it stops. It doesn't go on. You know,
It doesn't go up?
your face, your eye doesn't travel through the picture like it should, because
Hmm.
it's stopped by the out of focusness.
So you could even cut off maybe 10 or 15% of that bottom and it would help.
It's a better picture then, yeah. But
You might crop it right there. Just
Yeah.
Okay.
it's just, you know, when you're taking the picture, you got to think of that. That's
Well, I guess because I see so many that are done like that, where it's,
well, it doesn't mean they're right though. See, it's
oh. Well, doesn't mean they're wrong either, Doug.
Sometimes they'll do it for an effect if there's something beyond.
Sometimes
it
I like
that's-
that look.
Yeah, well, if there's something
Okay.
If
beyond
you're
it that's
there,
really
do
sharp,
it both ways. Do it both ways, you know,
Yeah.
decide
Yeah.
later what you like best.
what I'm trying to say is if there's something in the picture that is your focal point, you can figure out right away that the softness around it is leading your eye into what you're photographing. If you're trying to get the whole thing in, then it all should be sharper, you know?
Okay, I see what
You
you're
know.
saying. I guess I thought the span was the focal point, but okay. Anyway, so for the assignment, again, this is not something I typically ever have done. So I started really basic and I didn't really have a chance to go out anywhere. So this is just my front yard. And I just tried to find something that had some contrast. And so I know it's not the most interesting picture, but it was like baby steps for me.
Fast moving subject.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I
a cool
just-
pictures in there.
It's not blurred because it's not moving, see, you know?
Right, right. And clearly it's the focal point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the street light.
So again, I know this has a lot of potential, but I really just don't know what to do with it. So this was just sort of a picture of everything.
You know what I really like in there? Is the shadow of the guy in the back on the left
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
and
don't even
that
see
was-
the guy, you see the shadow more than him. I think that's great right in there. You know,
that
I
was
would
you,
like,
Doug.
Uh,
Yeah, it was
crop
intentional.
it right in there, you know, on that somehow, you know.
Where
But
is this skate?
if you had a longer lens, it would be great, you know, you
Yeah.
could have shot it that way.
Where's this skate park?
This is on 8 Mile in, I think it's Livonia.
Okay.
It would be west, I believe, of Newburgh.
So for me, Linda, the clouds are blown out a bit, and then that front part of the concrete is kind of blown out. It needs more texture.
Drop
Well,
the
it
whole-
is, but again, some of those Schuler pictures, clearly that white is,
And
you know, I was trying to kind of duplicate that really high contrast. I didn't know like the phone poles, the wires would, I mean, it would be a lot of work to take those out. Do you need to? I don't,
No, I wouldn't.
you wouldn't?
But you could drop down the highlights there's one that I probably would have dropped it down just a little in exposure.
Hey, Gary,
Yeah,
can you crop this?
I think cropping it would be good.
Go in and crop just that person on the left, you know, the shadow.
let's start right from the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be, you know, it's going to be grainy because of the sharpness, but I love that shadow in the back, just the cross, like,
totally tight crop, just enough so he's more obvious.
yeah.
Let's see, I'm trying to get,
I know it's hard to crop, isn't it?
no, I just, let's see.
Well, it's hard to know what to cut out, I think.
Yeah, don't try to put it in some format, Gary. Just move it down and around. There you go. Keep going.
You take the right.
Just go way up and just get the guy. Crop a small section out of there is what I want to see. Then you use a
This
longer
guy?
lens. Yeah,
Like a
yeah. You do a
cigarette.
longer lens then on him in the future. Do something. See, it's just more. Isn't that just more dramatic? You know,
Yeah, that would
Oh,
be
yeah.
cool.
it gives you a subject. You know, but see if you have a longer lens with you, you could do that in camera. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, you'll see my next picture, I did a little more like that, but well, again, I really didn't know what to do with the place. I
See,
just,
that shows you. It took out all the distracting sky and everything else. It just took you right to the subject. You know,
Mhm.
making that this is good too. See.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You got the curves and everything and the shadow of the person is what.
Yeah, that's much better, much stronger picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Now question, would you lighten the face on this guy a little?
I don't think I would.
No.
Well, you know, in the video, he mentioned that as he progressed,
You
he
could actually make that
was
darker.
less
more
interested in
contrast.
the people's facial expressions than in their
Yeah.
actions. So
Like,
that's why I kind of left it.
Okay.
It's a good shot, yeah. Mike?
Yep.
Okay.
So it was actually my wife took this picture in Mackinac about 9 years ago. I was going through a bunch of files trying to find a different one. I came across this and figured I'd try our treatment at it. And I was able to use the clone tool to take out the leaf on the bottom on the stem on the right side. And I noticed, I think Bob told me this before, but I played around with the color temperature. And that's how I was able to get the sky to go completely black.
It's funny. It's funny. I was looking somewhere online the other day. Some person has a weekly assignment or something, and it's looking at things from a different view, like, you know, looking up, looking down, you know, looking at something like you would not normally look at it. That was their assignment to do this week. Was pictures like that, and I thought that would be a good assignment for anything. You know, looking up, or looking down, or whatever.
Right.
Things with a different point of view.
I like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what this statue is. It's in Campus Martius Park. And we went down there last weekend with the intent of just taking some various pictures. And there were around the corner on the side where the lamppost is, there were two guys that were preaching. Yeah, it was pretty intense about it, Islamic. And I didn't dare take a picture of them for fear of what they would say. They were calling out a lot of people in the traffic crowd as they're going by, trying to explain to them about Islam. And so this guy here was like one of their security guards. And I went up to him and I asked him if I could take a very respectful picture of him. And he was okay with it. I got about 4 shots off and I heard someone walk up and say to him, "Hey, what's going on?" And the guy's like, "Oh, he's just taking a picture." Thought that was my clue to get out of there.
You never know.
Exit stage left. There you go.
There's a sewer cap right in front of the Penobscot building. I actually have a guy at work who wants to pay me to frame this and put it in his office. I was pretty happy with that.
You see those a lot in art shows and things, you know,
Yeah,
of Detroit stuff, you know.
That's a cool one.
that's a nice shot.
It's nice in black and white.
Yeah, it is. And you got the highlights under control.
So what I was doing is I put the camera on, I think Joseph mentioned this, is I put the contrast down real low on my black and white. And I was looking in the viewfinder as a JPEG, and it gives me an idea of how that would turn out in black and white.
Yep.
So I like that quite a bit. And it was a nice, useful tool.
Good.
And then I was able to take the raw file and tweak it however I wanted.
It's a nice perspective.
So this idea here, I stole from, there's a lawyer that runs a commercial, and I saw that perspective in his commercial. I had never seen that perspective before. And we were driving down, I think it's Jefferson right there. And I hurried up and I pulled alongside of, there's like a little turnaround for Hart Plaza. We illegally parked there and ran over and got the shot.
Yeah, that's to me, this would be really nice cropped square and cropping the cables out on the right
Yeah.
side, you know?
Square would be good.
Huh?
Square would be good.
Square and just the fist and, you know, and yeah, I think that'd be cool to try that.
It's better in black and white.
So we were shocked at how many people there were not down in Detroit. There was only a few of them at Campus Martius, maybe 50, 60 people, but they were all at Belle Isle. So it was packed, and we just, with the whole coronavirus, didn't feel like hanging out. And there weren't that many people around the Scott Fountain, so we took a couple shots there. And
It was probably a nice day. They were out there picnicking probably, right?
No, it was nice. It was really nice, yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have the top fountain part open.
Yeah, it looks like that, yeah.
I wonder if it was, and when I took the shot, it wasn't lit up. I don't know.
There could be. No water coming out, yeah. Who's this?
That's mine.
Ron,
Where is this?
That's the raw file. That's in London. It's
Oh,
a little park called Postman's Park. It's a memorial park. And I really liked the contrasting light that morning, a nice angle of it. And so I shot it in color, not even thinking about black and white, but this is converted.
I like the cross key square. Your eye goes right to it.
Good placement, yeah.
That's the raw, and that's the processed.
Nice.
Is that across the street from the GM?
Where is this?
I don't know.
It's a building, it's not far from CompuWare building, but I can't remember the name of the building. It's been a few years since I was there. It's inside. And that was actually taken from that tour boat that runs on Detroit River.
Hmm.
I tried to do something with just the flag. So if you go to the black and white,
Oh, wow.
and I reversed it. Just playing around, something different.
Good.
Ron, you notice around the edge of the flag, you've got some highlights.
A little over sharpened.
It's probably over sharpened. One trick you can do is take a brush and reduce the contrast and sharpening, and even add noise reduction, and then just go around that edge,
Okay.
and it'll kind of take
In
that out.
Photoshop or Lightroom? Both. But how would you do that in Photoshop or Lightroom or both?
Lightroom will do it.
I did all this in Photoshop.
Yeah, either way.
Camera Raw and then Photoshop.
All right, I think we hit everyone. These are really good this week. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I have another topic to introduce, so if you bear with me. Let me. No, this isn't it. I was searching around on the web and I found a photographer, Thomas Van Oost. And as soon as I saw his images, I just couldn't believe it. I was so taken. And I fired off an email to Tom Bernard, to Bob Ratcliffe, who else? Kevin, Doug. This guy is just so amazing. And I copied his philosophy statement. Working with multiple exposure photography allows me to play with space and time, as all photos visible in the final image are slightly shifted in both space and time, and to create a feeling of everything being unstable and uncertain, visual chaos. And Tom talks about that. Tom Bernard talks about that a lot. And I think you were the one that really got into the concept behind this, Tom, when you saw the pictures. And I spent a week just studying his images to try to find out what he's incorporating into his images. How does he get these? And how I was going to go about trying to duplicate this. Tom is way ahead of me in the process here, and we're gonna look at some of his images.
And if you go to his website, this page, each of these is a gallery. You can see a lot of images.
Yeah, he's got by year 2020, 19, 18, 17, 17. So he's been doing this for a few years, and his the prices on his prints are really high. They're about $1,800 to $2,000 an image, and but his images are just amazing.
So they're double exposures, but he's just moving the camera slightly.
But okay, that's what we're going to get into about how does he do it, and it was driving me crazy, and
We thought it was a whole bunch of things.
well, yeah, and in an interview, I read everything I could about him. In an interview, he said he doesn't do anything in camera. He does it in post, which he's using Photoshop, and he's doing it in layers. And what he's doing is taking 1 or 2 or 3 multiple images, layering them, and then he's doing all kinds of tricks with it. And I made a list of all the tricks he's doing, but let's just take a look at what some of his images look like.
It looks like it's 4 or 5 of them.
But 4 or 5 of the same image in this case. Okay, I've studied a lot of this, and you can see the repetitive, and we're going to talk about how he's doing this. In this case, there's more than one image. These are multiple images that he's taking, and producing this. Note just the, the singular colors that he uses to bring out in this muted background of colors that he's as part of his palette.
That's beautiful there
Yeah. Well,
with the reflections. That's great.
Now remember, and I'll start mentioning some of the things like rain, reflections in rain, umbrellas.
Everything, yeah.
He's using textures. He's using cloud textures as an overlay, stormy dark clouds as a texture overlay. And you can count if you look hard, you can count the number of repetitions. And usually they're around 4 or 5 is about the maximum that he's using. But in this case, there's 2 different images he's working with. He's got this foreground image and then there's a background image.
It's like in the car there, it looks like a reflection in the fender, but it's not, it's
Yeah.
in the right there, the red, it's not a reflection. It's a.
In this case, I gave up trying to count how many times he's repeated it and shifted it and things like that.
Did he do the same image, just shifted, or does he take multiple images?
That's a good question. And
I think he does both.
He does both. And I've spent so much time studying this guy, and I think it's worth it. Look at that. I just love this picture.
This one is great. We hypothesized 3 or 4 ways he was doing this, and we were wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, remember we were in Chicago at that art installation?
Yes.
Projectors on the light. When I saw these, it reminded me of that, where we had the people in
Absolutely,
silhouette
me too.
and we had those lights in the layers,
Those are great. This one I love.
The singular yellow figure walking. And when he has figures in the picture, sometimes he isolates them so that they stand out and they're not as blurred and repeated as the rest of the picture. So he's trying to focus on the individual, the individual in the chaos that's going on around.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And again, I think.
Where's he located? Is this,
Belgium.
Belgium?
He's Belgian.
Is that where most of these are taken? All over the place?
This is a good example of his colors.
He's a master with colors, just, everything, the duotones and,
You get a sense for how much time he typically spends in post-processing, fiddling?
Days.
yes. And yeah, we're going to talk about that too, because it's very time consuming just to get this thing set up to be able to do this. And I actually wrote an action that take a lot of this out of the way so that you don't have to go through this. And we'll talk about that. I'm going to give anybody that wants the action, I'll send it to them.
Yes, please.
You can see the repetition, the themes that he creates, with the water, the reflection, the darkness, the umbrellas, the cloudiness, the movement, the stormy overlays. I just think they're visual masterpieces, every one of them.
You like blurry pictures.
If you like blurry pictures, yeah, I'm a sucker for these.
I love these. These are nice.
As Kevin, yeah.
No, that's sweet.
I
I like that one. That one with the red.
I'm just going to run down some of that. I'm not going to go through individual ones, but you can just get an idea of the collection of different pictures that he's producing.
And that's just in one gallery.
Wow.
Look at this. I mean, it's hard to think like that, let alone compose. And look at that.
What's the one thing for me is like, how do you know when you're done? You have enough in there.
You're right. Yes.
You have to have your own vision, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just
And again, the umbrellas, the umbrella here.
You could definitely overdo it,
Look at that. And the invert, you know, taking the picture, inverting it, reflecting it, putting it on the top. He does it the same way with the sky. Sometimes he'll put them on the bottom. The repetition. So there's a number of challenges trying to do this. Tom Pernar has already gotten pretty far along with the development on this. These are some of the latest ones he's produced
In the last week.
in the last week. I mean, he's always doing this anyway. So Tom, you're there. You can talk about these on how you where you took these and.
Oh, I don't know where I took that. Oh, that's at night at Eastern Market. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I just worked that. That was a long one. It took me about, oh, it must have been about 8-9 hours on that, something like that.
It's really nice.
That was,
Wow.
that was, you know, I've only been doing this a week now, so
Wow.
You're doing really well.
so I'm not going to be like Thomas Van Oost for quite a while.
I don't know. You're close.
Yeah. I wouldn't know the difference.
Wow.
Look at that. Tom, you're really doing well with these.
Yeah, those-
Are you using the action at all to get these started?
You know what? I use that to help me start out.
Okay.
And then I start moving those around. Yeah, it's really good for a real quick look. If you got an image and you kind of want to manipulate it, you know, you run that, and that puts up about what, 6 or 7, 8 images, and then I can start. It just saves me a little bit of time. But you know, I'm getting back to where I'm just treating each layer individually now. That was down near the Renaissance Center. And
I like that
that's
one.
a Z Park Alley, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is where you flipped it too, upside down, huh?
Yeah, I'm just trying all kinds of stuff, you know. And then
Wow.
I hope to just sort of
Oh, that's
just
That
yeah,
one
to get the shadows right. I recreated. There were no shadows, and I thought I'd stick some in, but they're a little bit too prominent. I may go back
How did you use the people to make the shadows?
and fix those. No, there weren't any shadows there.
How did you make them though? Did you use the people?
Right.
Oh, you just take a copy of those, and then you
Hey, I recognize this one.
go
Tom.
into distort, or I should say transform.
Is this the Broad Museum?
And yeah, that's a Broad Museum in Lansing. Yeah.
You'll find
what it
that
looks like in real
Tom
life.
has every command there is in Photoshop.
This is my favorite right here.
wow.
Yeah, Doug, Bob, and I like this so much that we asked Tom for his permission to print these, and so we printed some of these. We're gonna
I
give.
want to fix that bottom. I'm not too
Don't touch it.
happy about that bottom.
I like it the way it is. You got to sign it though. You will, right?
Yeah,
These
yeah.
are
This is just gorgeous. Yeah, we made 17 by 22 inch prints, and they are just stunning.
Oh,
And
I don't see that.
so here's the list that I compiled as a PDF file, as some of the common visual tools that he's using, just to remind myself as I'm going through it. You know, rain with reflections, foreground layer, dark background layers fading away, umbrellas, night or high contrast, 2 or 3 exposure blends, split tones, black and yellow, dark blue, gray, and orange, muted colors, blurs, texture overlays, individuals with colors against muted palette, black and white tinted blue gray, skies with reflections of foreground, rotation of layers, vertical reflections above. That means taking the reflections and moving them to a different part of the screen. X variations, which means tilting the image in an X fashion to get a crisscrossing effect. 90-degree left and right variations. That's why you're looking at a building on the left and the right and doing the variations with this script down the center, isolating one individual in focus and the rest of the picture is out of focus. Sides repetitive, a center clear, low camera angle, isolated colors against a bleached bypass background, random repetitions, opacity and locations, dark cloudy sky textures, partial mask inserts, means taking partial pieces of it and layering on top of it. So these are just the things that I'm seeing as far as techniques that he's using.
Gary, what about flipping upside down?
Yeah, that's in the
Somewhere.
reflections.
If you go back to the very first one, you can see some of those.
That's it?
Uh,
Okay.
no, right in there, yeah. So you can see I've got
Oh, you flip some over, yeah.
upside down. I got it stuck over to the side. I repeated some things.
Yeah, I like at the top, you got those words about halfway up and then you just flip it
Yeah,
over right to the
yeah.
very top, not all the way
And,
from the bottom, yeah.
So the goal here is not to copy Van Oost, but to understand what he's doing and then create your own type of artwork based on some of the techniques that he's using. I mean, I've seen enough of Van Oost stuff and I've seen Tom Pinard's work enough that I can tell right away whose is whose. I mean, it just, to me, it's obvious. You know, they're both really are mastering these kind of techniques and they're different. I've tried it and my stuff is evolving day to day. And I want to just show you how that evolution is working. Let's see, here's.
Yeah, he wants to redo things he did way back yesterday.
Actually, yes. I did some stuff this weekend, and in the time that it took to get to this week, here's some things. And this is one of the first ones I did, and I'm trying to combine my artography with this. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Tom has his own separate goals. Mine is to try to do some of the combinations, and I kind of like this one. I'm probably going to leave it. I left the people in the forefront here in focus, and there's a lot of repetition and variations going on. Here's a variation of the Broad Museum.
I like that. That's
with all the stairwells, and this is when you bring in a layer and you want to change that layer by rotation or sizing and things like that. They give you a target point, and what you can do with that target point is move it over to a location, and then you can rotate around that point with your picture, so that if you want to keep that line, you know, with the handrail, you know, locked in at that point, you can do that. This, I think, is only 3 or 4 variations in different sizes of the layers. This is one of the buildings downtown. I like the effect, but I'm disappointed that I didn't, the actual picture doesn't go down to the street so I can have people involved. I think that for me, that's important to get the people in the picture.
An anchor.
As an anchor and point of focus and things like that. But, you know, the technique is interesting, you know, and it looks pretty good. Here's a shot in Chicago. And there's 2 variations here. I did this one and then whoops, let me go back. And then this one. So I just adding some, you know, multiple things in the picture, all these things start to happen. And when you see how complicated these layers get, it really gets interesting. Here's one downtown Rochester. This was actually taken on a sunny afternoon.
Looks wet, doesn't it?
Yeah. And this is taking a section of the image, copying it, flipping it vertically, and reversing it, sending it down on the bottom, and it actually creates a reflection, which looks like, you know, the street is wet. And then bringing in, you know, whatever else you need. You know, there's I think 3 variations that you see in the sky.
The umbrella helps with that too, I think.
Yes.
Oh,
man.
That's nice.
why?
And again, trying to get the right colors is a challenge. This one has about 6 or 7 layers of diminishing size, so that you get that stepping stone type of a look. But again, the colors, if you overdo it, at first I was overdoing the colors and I had to go back. There's a lot of them I did that I went back after 3 days and say, those are terrible. And I just started over and redid them. Here's Birmingham. There's 2 variations here. One, this is the first one I did where these are all the same size and I'm repeating it. I looked at it and I said, there's not enough variation in that. And I went to this where there's, you know, I'm taking the extra images and moving around, different resizing and so on. black and white versions. So, you know, playing around with different things. Now here's one I tried on Saturday, and I posted it on my site, and I got like 6 likes, which is pretty good. But I looked at it and I just said, this is terrible. I mean, it's not refined. It's not, you know, in the direction I want to go. I have to start over. I just thought it was too cartoonish. There was too much texture to it. The colors weren't right. And so this morning I redid it, and this is the final version. So you can see the evolution happening. You know, this looks much more refined than this.
Mhm.
I think they're both pretty good, actually. Each one has its own
Yeah.
merits, I'd say.
This is the direction I want to go, you know, versus, you know, this was going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, a little bit too overdone, a little.
Yeah, yeah.
and this one's nice, sort of understated.
Mhm.
Real nice, yeah, with that
Nice
reflection.
thing about this technique is it'll work with a lot of subjects.
Yeah.
There's just a subtle variation. This has when I got done, I took a second copy and just moved it about 5 or 6 pixels to give it a little bit of a blur look versus this one, which doesn't have that variation. Can you tell the difference?
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle. I don't know which one I like better at this point, but you know, it depends on where I want to go with it, and back to that. So,
Gary, can you do a quick demo of your action and just kind of the basics of how you manipulate some of these?
yeah, if I can find a picture that, I don't know if I have something real quick to, let's just pick this.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know what this is going to turn out to be, but let's pick it anyways.
Because there really isn't a right or wrong answer until you get into it a ways.
So we'll just go with this. Now, if you're going to do this without the action, what you have to do is start out by taking your original, making a copy of it, reducing, you know, selecting the entire image, and then resizing it. The idea is that you're making repetitive copies of the original as your background, and then moving them in different directions, using different blending modes and different sizes and so on, and different opacities. With the action, and that can take a lot of time. With the action, I set it up so that it runs, and it's going to give me 7 layers to start, and each one is progressively a little bit smaller. Then I've turned off all the layers as a final point so that you just start at the base with one of the other layers, and you can start working. I'll show you how that works.
So the action is just a preset of commands, a bunch of commands.
An action is a recording of the different steps you're taking, and it just records the number of steps. So if you're doing something that's very repetitive, if you just go into actions, record, and then every step that you take is recorded, and when you say stop, you give it a name, and that's an action. You can see I've got all kinds of actions here that I write. Let's hope I don't
It
have
really
to.
takes the drudgery out, and it lets you get started, because you'll start it and go a little ways and say, oh, I don't like this, and you get to restart a new image quickly.
Right. So how would you tell if it's going to work or not? You can make a decision whether you want to keep going with it.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like this might be taking a little time to do, but if you do this without the actions, you're going to spend hours getting this thing set up. And again, I hope I don't have too many things
Is
open.
that museum in Milwaukee again?
Pardon me?
Where is this? Is this the museum in Milwaukee again?
Yes, this is the museum. So I have the background layer and then 6 additional layers, but they're turned off with the exception of the first layer, which is slightly reduced. So if I go over to the move tool and I'm on this first layer, I can take it, and you see I can move that first image around, and I can place it and decide where do I want to go with this. Do I want to go in this direction? Do I want to go in that direction? I have different blending modes. I have some of the ones you can use. Tom and I have been experimenting with this, like darken, multiply, lighten, and screen are the most obvious choices. The default on the action I have, I just kept it in lighten, and the opacity I've set to 50%. So it's up to you to figure this out. Now I can just go through here and just turn these other layers on, and you can see what happens as I go through. And it's building this thing up. This actually looks like it could be a pretty cool picture. I like it already. But what you have to do is go in now and either resize and move each individual layer to get that effect that you're looking for.
Or change the blend mode. Or
change the blend mode, change the opacity. There's a lot of work, but the directory of going through and trying to get this all set up has been accomplished by just using the action. After that, I got to tell you, there's going to be a learning curve that's going to really be difficult. You're going to have to spend a lot of time on it. And if you're going to do this for a club, my recommendation is don't turn anything in for a month, because it's going to be awful. And if you bring it in the club, it's going to get, the whole process itself is going to get a bad reputation, and you're going to be in an uphill battle to try to convince people that there's some value to doing something like this. So
I can't wait.
I know.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking along Gary's lines, even 2 or 3 months. If we're going to get into this, let's figure out how to do it.
Yeah, and Tom Pernar can help us move through this. I mean, Tom, I assume this is basically how you start as well, just looking at all the different combinations.
Yeah, I usually do that. I'll eliminate some layers.
Right, you don't need them all. Sometimes you can do 2 or 3 layers. Sometimes you can do 7 or 10. It's up to you.
So
Click
what do you do?
Command T. Hit Command T. Take that. All right. Take that anchor point and move it over to the left, and further to the left, a little bit up. Okay, say right about there. Now go up in the upper right-hand corner till you get a rotational arrow. All right, see right there, rotate that.
Oh, wow.
So you could do that with each one of those layers, only rotate them a little bit differently, or maybe even rotate it and offset it.
And you can also scale it.
Yeah, you can scale it. Yeah. And I really have been using soft light and overlay quite a bit, and then adjusting the opacity.
Yeah, I mean,
That's been
here's
working real well.
That's 100% down to 0, going back and forth. So each one of those layers has to be adjusted. Here's multiply.
So you may have to use different blend modes for each layer and different opacities.
So the action is to just create all 7 identical layers with the same effect, or just slightly shifted? Is that what it's doing?
I've got them slightly shifted, so each progressive, I've done some work so that each progressive layer gets smaller and smaller, and is shifted a little bit to one side. Then you can, when you get started, the idea is that all these are turned off, and you go one by one through it, deciding how you want to move these things around. Okay, so here there's a background in that first layer. So if this is going to get you started, you have to decide, which way you want to go. What do you want to do with it? How do you want to turn it? What kind of reflections do you want to put in? Do you want to use a texture in the sky? That comes later. Once you get this thing done, then there's all kinds of other things you can do. Changing the color palette, adding textures. It just goes on and on. Reflections.
You can change the colors in portions of just one layer.
Right.
Gary, what do you do about the edges of each photo to make them blend in?
Good idea. When those pop up, and a lot of times, depending on the blending mode, they won't pop up. But if they do, let's go to something like multiply. Okay, there. Okay. Then I create a mask. This little rectangle with a circle is called a mask. That'll pop up there. Then you just take your brush with a soft edge
Mm-hmm.
and black, and just paint around. I wouldn't use 100%. I'd use something like 40 or 50. So you're just taking that edge out.
I see. Okay.
And all of a
How
sudden,
much you do that is kind of, seasoned to taste.
Mm-hmm.
and depending on the blending mode, you'll have to do it. Some you don't have to do it. So there's a lot of tricks. It can be very complicated, but as you've seen from some of Tom's pictures and from Van Oosten's pictures, I mean, there's so much opportunity here for some really creative stuff.
Can you show a quick flip and reflection?
Yeah, let's see. Let's use the background layer if we can. I'll take the selection marquee, and I'll say edit.
Maybe before you do that, do you want to put a man with the Traveler man in?
We'll do that last. That's the
okay.
Okay, let's make a copy of that and then edit, paste.
That guy with the umbrella?
Yeah.
Transform.
You starting to look kind of familiar.
Flip vertical. Use the move tool. Oops. What happened to my, there it is. If I can get that. Let me turn this on. There it is. So you can actually take that layer down, blend that in so it looks, that's how you're getting your reflections. You can turn this actually into a dark, stormy, rainy type of a picture without too much work. So that's there. And you can start turning these back on, work in the reflections. It's a lot of work, and it can be frustrating, but when you see the results, it can be pretty amazing.
Gary, if I want to try this with different images, can I just replace the ME2, ME3 with a different image and go on from there?
I wouldn't use this action if you're using 3 different images. There's different ways to do that. It's simply just taking the 3 images, asking Photoshop to bring them in as layers, and then changing the opacity and the blending modes based on those 3 different pictures.
If you start with the action, you can go in like here and you can try different things and decide you're down a rabbit hole that you don't like, throw the whole thing out and use the action on another picture. Eventually you start to get it and say, oh, now I see what I'm doing.
Yeah, but this action is for 1 image only. I want to do it with 3, 4, 5 images.
Okay.
You can run an action on a layer.
Yeah.
You just pick that layer and you can run the action on that particular layer. And then you could have another image on another layer and run that action again. And then organize those into groups. That helps out. So you can kind of cut down on the amount of clutter over in your menu. Groups are handy to know.
If you haven't used layers and mask and all these things, I know this is going to sound like rocket science. It's not really, and you can learn it in a week. You can master how to do this, and it'll help improve all of your photography if you learn how to use these layers and then masking and different adjustments, the adjustment layers.
When I first tried to learn layers and mask, I was baffled, but once I figured it out, it's like, duh, it was really simple.
Do you have a recommendation for any kind of videos to watch, YouTube to learn layers?
I could find nothing about what I just showed you.
No, but just,
I mean, in just doing regular.
On layers, yes. Yeah, you can find all kinds of stuff on layers, using layers and blending modes. There's plenty of stuff to get started on that.
You can go to Adobe TV.
Okay.
Or just go to YouTube and Google it. There's a ton of stuff on specific commands or portions of Photoshop. But yeah, just get into masking and layers.
Okay.
and learn the basics. And I think that's something that everybody should go for anyway, just because there's so much you can do with layers and masks.
I will say I've tried to go on YouTube, and the problem that I have found is there's always something they assume I already know.
I feel the
I really know absolutely nothing. So
Well,
like the most basic thing, they talk about layers, but they sort of somehow assume you know how to get from Lightroom to Photoshop. You know, things- it gets-
Yeah, and what you do there is just you run into something you don't know, then maybe stop and Google that, and pretty soon it. But I think you'll find there's some pretty good basic videos out there. There's tons and tons of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I find for me, I have to be actually doing it, not just watching it. So what I'm going to try is use my laptop and watch the video, but actually try to follow doing it on my big computer.
Right. I have 2 screens, and that's exactly what I do. Put
Because
it on-
otherwise it's way over my head. I just,
Yeah.
I lose it.
A lot of the really good tutorial people usually have an image that they're working on, and you go down to the scroll down below their their panel there,
Mhm.
and it says more, and a lot of times they'll have a link and you can upload that image that they're working on and work right along with them.
Well, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, that happened.
A lot of them have that.
Fix Imperfect, F64 Academy, PTC, the Photoshop Learning Channel. Those guys I really like. They go a little bit fast for me sometimes. I end up watching some of these things 5 and 6 times and trying to figure out what they're saying. But
And again, Adobe
Oh my
Photoshop,
gosh.
there's all kinds of stuff.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And
All
What the heck?
if you want these kind of figures, all you have to do is Google silhouette figures with umbrella, and these things will all come up. You can download them. Very simple to cut them out. What I do is I put a little bit of a Gaussian blur on it, and they fit right in. And if you
Technically,
want-
you can't use them in club, but they make wonderful pictures.
yeah.
I've never seen any pictures before in my life.
And if you want the shadow reflection below it, just take the image, flip it down vertical, and put a little bit more opacity on it so it's not quite as dark as the original, and it'll look like there's a reflection of the individual walking.
then you can go into transform and kind of skew that off so it looks more natural.
Yeah.
Well, like that one right in the middle, it had a little bit of a shadow.
And in order to use these in club, you have to have taken the image, but it's a pretty simple thing to go start taking some of these silhouettes when you're out and about, and
Mhm.
eventually you have your own little library of things.
Remember this lady?
Right.
She's the one in the Rochester walking across the street.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's
Where'd
just
you get
it's- think of this as graphic art, and you're doing it. These are just little tools that you're using to add to your artwork.
But again, start simple. If you're not familiar with layers and masks or even Photoshop, go take some really basic image and do some really basic things before you get into this. You'll be glad you spend the time on it.
And
Let me just revert. Let's go back and I'll just show you real quickly how simple it is just to create a layer. And here we're back to the background layer. Go up to layer, duplicate layer. You can give this a different name. Then it's down here. Now you just use the same tools that we were talking about before. Select all, edit, transform. You have all these things here in transform: scale, rotate, skew, distort, warp, rotate, flip horizontal. If you want to scale this, hit
And
scale.
if you don't know which one to use, try one and just hit Command Z to undo it if you screw it up or hate it.
There's lighten, there's opacity. There it is. play around with it. Then just duplicate this one, right click on the layer, say duplicate layer, give it a name. You have that one. Now you can just go into that one and do the same thing. Edit, transform, scale. Now you got your third image. So what the action's just doing is just doing what I just did, except it's recording all this and putting it down there so you don't have to go through these
Learn
steps.
shortcuts.
I like
Learn
in
shortcuts,
Lightroom,
because
you
you'll be wasting so much time going to drag down menus and things.
Mhm.
Should, like over there, if you wanted that layer that's active right now, you hit Command J. Just hit that and bang, it automatically makes a copy and it puts it up above. And or you can drag that down to the plus sign down there in the bottom of the panel, and it's just so much quicker if you learn shortcuts, especially with all these layers and things that you're going to be turning on and turning off,
When
and
you're first getting started,
transformations and all that. Just get a little cheat sheet, get these shortcuts down there, and once you start using them, boy, they're going to speed you up 75%, I think.
and if you start simple, don't try and learn everything at once. You know, try and learn 2 or 3 things each time you are on the computer. Pretty soon they'll start to add up.
Do you do all this stuff as a smart object?
Yes, if you want.
That would be the more
I don't
sophisticated.
know if I want.
Yeah, that would be the better way to do it. Initially, I wouldn't get overly excited about that if it's confusing. And Linda, to your earlier question about how do you get it from Lightroom to Photoshop, if you have both Photoshop and Lightroom installed,
Mm-hmm.
you're in Lightroom, you right click on the image and select Edit in Photoshop. It just does it.
Now, I do know how to do that because I actually know how to do a border. It's the only thing I know how to do, a stroke border. And I do
Well-
it as a smart object, even though I don't really know what that is. But I wanted to try masking, and I don't know how to bring in like a second layer or any of that stuff. So, and I
Okay.
haven't found a video how to do that.
Oh man, let me go look for some. There's just tons.
I mean, I don't want to bore you guys with such basic stuff, but
No, you got it really helped. Julianne Cost, K-O-S-T,
Mhm.
has her own Adobe TV channel where you can just Google Julianne Cost, but she's the chief guru of teaching people Photoshop worldwide. She's the chief evangelist. She has tons and tons and tons of very
Videos.
specific things.
Okay,
okay.
just quickly, if you want to take 3 different pictures, okay, we've selected 3 pictures in Bridge. I go up to Tools, Photoshop, Load Files into Photoshop Layers. This will take it. Hopefully I haven't overtaxed my system here. Maybe I can close this.
So in Lightroom, I would suspect you just highlight 3 different images.
Bob, you have to answer that one.
Yeah, in Lightroom, let's say you had 3 images that you wanted to bring into Photoshop and you wanted them to be brought in as individual files. You would just select all 3, right click and say edit in Photoshop. However,
Okay.
if you want them brought in as layers, each
Oh.
file being a separate layer, when you right click, look towards the bottom of the list and it'll say open in Photoshop as layers.
Oh, okay.
So here you have 3 different pictures down here. And as soon as you start blending modes and changing opacity, you'll see these things starting to blend together. And you can,
And do a simple mask and just show how you can mask in or mask out.
masking is just creating that mask, picking the rectangle with a circle, taking it, so you're gonna have this white box there. Take your brush with a black brush.
And white says everything on that image is going to be shown.
And so if I want to erase through this top layer and see what's below it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm just painting over the picture and it's revealing what's underneath in the second layer.
You're painting over them. You're using the mask. You're selecting the mask and then painting.
Okay.
with-
So you'll
with
get
the-
the second layer, not the third.
You're seeing the second layer now. I turn off the top layer.
And then you'd have to do the same thing on the second to get to the third.
Right. So I can turn that off and I can put a mask on the second layer
Mhm.
if I want, just certain areas if I want to cut through.
Right.
You
But
know,
if you want it to be completely hidden, you use black as your paint. But if you want it to be slowly work up, we'll use some shade of gray.
if I want to go backwards and say I cut too much out, I just change this back from black to white over here. And then I go back and it starts putting it back the way it was.
Okay.
It's
So
not that complicated.
Layers and masks are a huge part of the power of Photoshop.
So
Well, that's how you guys put in those clouds when you have a white sky or something, right?
Yes, yes, that's an easy way to do it using a lighten or a screen mode here.
Okay. But they have to line up correctly.
Now, again, don't get frustrated because when I retired, a guy told me I wouldn't live long enough to learn Photoshop.
Okay, so for an assignment, how about we do this for an assignment? Bob will send out if somebody wants to try the action, that's fine. But let's do a couple of things. Let's try a double exposure, make it simple. Just taking two pictures, bringing it into Photoshop as layers, and then trying out your blend modes and your opacity, just to create, pick two pictures you think, a street shot, maybe a close-up, blend them together and find out what happens. Try to create something with that. And the other is to take the action, load in a picture, and try something with that. Now, the object here is not to create a masterpiece. The exercise is to learn the techniques. All right. So
Just to learn the basics of Photoshop and
yeah, learn how to blend two pictures together or three pictures together how you want. And it'll become obvious as you bring them in. And the other will be try the action, take one shot, throw it in there, get the multiple layers and play around with them. It may end up looking like spaghetti, but that's fine. We can talk about that next time we meet and figure out what's going on, what's not going on, and how you get there. This could take 3 or 4 meetings to get right, but I think you can get it. You can do it.
Okay,
Is everybody up for that?
yes.
Sounds good.
We're up for it.
Well, no,
We
we're
may
all-
fall down flat.
And it's not just learning how to do this. This is going to help your photography and your post-processing 100 times. I mean, this is stuff that you need to know how to use.
So with your masking, when you choose black, that cuts through to the layer below. When you choose white, that means that it's going to only be the top layer.
The white is going to repair whatever you cut through.
Okay.
It's just like taking two 8x10 photographs with an X-Acto blade. That's the same thing. You're just cutting through, but now you have the option of reversing it to put it back the way you want. You couldn't do that with the X-Acto blade. Once you cut the hole in it, you're done. But
okay, to give you an example, I just went to YouTube. I typed in Adobe Photoshop Layers tutorial,
Okay.
and there's pages of them.
I'll give it back to you, Bob, and you can show you what.
Oh, I agree there's pages, but it's surprising what they assume you know.
Yeah,
Well, try the first one. Look at them. Here's it says a beginner's guide to layers and masks.
I
And
bet
also, Bob's got a recording of tonight's session, so he can send you the action. He can send you the recording if you want to look at it again about what we talked about and some of the things we did.
You bet. But just go down through some of them, and you get into one that you don't like, why don't use that one. But try 3 or 4 of these, and I think it'll start to come together. And like Ann said, fool with it with maybe look at it on your iPad or whatever, and then go in and try something, and you get confused, go back and rewatch it. I've done that
Right.
lots of times.
And if you've seen those pictures of a profile of a person's face, and then it's like superimposed with the inside of it looks like a tree or something like that. I mean, that's nothing more than putting two pictures together and layering, going into a screen mode and creating that. So you learn those kind of tricks real quick, by going through these exercises. So don't think we're going to create a masterpiece for next meeting. This is just to learn how to use
The
these
basics of the basics.
Yeah.
Gary, can you send us that list you showed us earlier?
Yeah, I'll send everything to Bob and we'll send it out as a package. We'll send out the
Okay.
the list, we'll
Thank
send
you.
out the action and the video, Bob. That's right?
Yep.
Okay. So make it fun. It's not as hard as learning how to play a piano. I can tell you that. I've been trying to do that.
We're waiting for, you're gonna do a tune for us.
Hey, yesterday was my birthday and I played Happy Birthday and everybody sang. So I'm getting somewhere after 3 months.
So they knew it was that right song.
They generally, they had a general idea what I was playing.
He's basic. Don't let him kid you.
Happy birthday, Gary.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. And Mike, I promise we'll get back to the artography part too, but I think, we'll get this all molded together and it'll all come out at the end.
If we get the group a little bit more up to speed in Photoshop and or Lightroom, but in particular Photoshop, I think you'll find all of the other subjects we discuss will be much, much richer and easier to use.
And if there weren't people that were here tonight, then that's too bad they weren't, but they have the video and they can take a look at this. Anne's still on vacation. I'm sure she's left a couple of notes about learning. She wants to learn how to do this. So
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there are others that want to as well.
And plus, learning the basics of Photoshop will help you for every other technique we come up with.
Just to sharpen the images
Yes.
would be great.
And remember, in Photoshop, there's at least 3 or 4 ways to do everything.
Yes. So this is like Photoshop boot camp now. You're in it.
Sounds good.
It's going to be painful, but we're going to toughen you guys up.
Yep.
Right.
And it's a hell of a lot more fun once you get the basics under your belt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sounds good.
Special thanks to Tom Pernar for coming and sharing his pictures. He's been an inspiration to me for getting all this done.
Every time we have a coffee with Tom and he shows us stuff, I learn so many things about Photoshop I didn't know.
Come on, I don't know.
Okay, guys. When I'll send all that stuff to you as soon as Gary sends it to me, and hopefully this recording is usable.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Good luck, guys. And if you have questions, don't wait for 2 weeks. Send Bob or myself an email, and we'll get back to you. We'll get it figured out.
You bet.
Thanks, everybody. This
Yeah,
is great.
thank you.
So much.
Night.